Top of page 266 where it says, "It's raining." "It's raining, y'all," he cried. "That old rain a-comin' down." Little man Christopher John and I jumped from the porch and ran barefooted onto the lawn, feeling the rain fine and cool upon our faces. And we laughed, whooping joyously into the thundering night, forgetting for the moment that we still did not know what had happened to TJ. When the dawn came, peeping yellow-gray and sooted over the horizon, the fire was out and the thunderstorm had shifted eastward after an hour of heavy rain. I stood up stiffly, my eyes tearing from the acrid smoke, and looked out across the cotton to the slope, barely visible in the smoggish dawn. Near the slope, where once cotton stalks had stood, their brown balls popping with tiny puffs of cotton, the land was charred, desolate, black, still steaming from the night. I wanted to go and take a closer look, but for once Christopher John would not budge. "No," he repeated over and over, "I ain't goin'." But what Mama meant was that she didn't want us near the fire, and it's out now. Christopher John set his lips firmly together, folded his plump arms across his chest, and was adamant. When I saw that he would not be persuaded, I gazed again at the field and decided that I could not wait any longer. "Okay, you stay here then. We'll be right back." Ignoring his protests, Little Man and I ran down to the wet road. Top of 267. "He really ain't comin'," said Little Man, amazed, looking back over his shoulder. "I guess not," I said, searching for signs of the fire in the cotton. Farther up the road, the stalks were singed, and the fine gray ash of the fire lay thick upon them and the road and the forest trees. When we reached the burnt-out section of the field, we surveyed the destruction. As far as we could see, the fire line had extended midway up the slope, but had been stopped at the trench. The old oak was untouched. Moving across the field slowly, mechanically, as if sleepwalking, was a flood of men and women dumping shovels of dirt on fire patches which refused to die. They wore wide handkerchiefs over their faces, and many wore hats, making it difficult to identify who was who. But it was obvious that the ranks of the firefighters had swelled from the 24 townsmen to include nearby farmers. I recognized Mr. Lanier by his floppy blue hat working side by side with Mr. Sims, each oblivious of the other, and Papa near the slope waving orders to 2 of the townsmen. Mr. Granger, hammering down smoldering stalks with the flat of his shovel, was near the south pasture where Mr. Morrison and Mama were swatting the burning ground. Nearer the fence, a stocky man, masked like the others, searched the field in robot fashion for hidden fire under the charred skeletons of broken stalks. When he reached the fence, he leaned tiredly against it, taking off his handkerchief to wipe the sweat and soot from his face. He coughed and, top of 268, looked around blankly. His eyes fell on Little Man and me staring up at him, but Caleb Wallace seemed not to recognize us, and after a moment he picked up his shovel and started back toward the slope without a word. Then Little Man nudged me. "Look over there, Cassie. There go Mama and Big Ma." I followed his pointing finger. Mama and Big Ma were headed home across the field. "Come on," I said, sprinting back up the road. When we reached the house, we dragged our feet across the wet lawn to clean them and rejoined Christopher John on the porch. He looked a bit frightened, sitting there all alone, and was obviously glad we were back. "Y'all all right?" he asked. "Course we're all right," I said, plopping on the porch and trying to catch my breath. "What'd it look like?" Before either Little Man or I could answer, Mama and Big Ma emerged from the field with Stacy, the sacks now blackened remnants in their hands. We ran to them eagerly. "Stacy, all right?" I cried. "What about TJ? And Claude?" stammered Christopher John. And Little Man asked, "Papa and Mr. Morrison, ain't they coming?" Mama held up her hand warily. "Babies, babies!" Then she put her arm around Christopher John. "Claude's fine, honey. And," she said, looking down at Little Man, "Papa and Mr. Morrison, they'll be coming soon." Put your book down. Look in your packet. Answer question 1 and question 2. Question 2 is on the second page.